Hi, Mark. It's Tuesday, January the 6th, just after 10 a.m. Eastern. That's just after 3 p.m. GMT. US session well underway. We're into the last portion of the European session and US dollar performance starting on the US dollar index. US dollar certainly fighting back today, looking to recoup the losses from yesterday. I've got support at 97.87 and resistance at 98.24. Buyers will want to break above this intraday resistance and maintain above that 98 level. Sellers will look to bounce down off this resistance area, get below 98 and look down at the 97.87 support level. If I zoom in on that hourly, there you can see strong US dollar to start. Bit of a sell-off a couple of hours ago, but US dollar demand for US dollar reflected on the index at this point as the US session gets underway and buyers looking up at this 98.24 resistance level. Let's have a look and see how the majors are performing. The euro, there's the red candlestick that's selling euro, buying US dollar strength. Didn't maintain yesterday, you can see that. But again, today we see US dollar strength. Let's zoom in on that hourly. And there you can see selling euro, buying US dollar. Couple of hours ago when the just before the US session got underway, a bit of a bounce that's buying euro, selling US, didn't materialize, didn't last, and now we're back to red candlestick, selling euro, buying US dollar strength, looking to test break below this 116.97 support, looking to get below $117 strength. If US dollar gives up these gains and can't maintain the bounce up of this area, buyers of euro, sellers of US would be looking up at the 117.45 resistance level. Let's have a look at the pound. Pound had a strong day against the US yesterday, giving up some of those gains now. US dollar strength so far. I've got resistance at 135.73 and I have support at 135.06. If I zoom in on the hourly, there you can see the strong US dollar, that's selling pound, buying US, attempted fight back by the pound. US gave up some of those gains, but once again, US dollar strength, US dollar buyers looking to sell pound, buy US dollar and come down and test this 135 support area. If US dollar strength can't be maintained, the bounce up of the support level, buyers of pound, sellers of US will be looking up at the 135.73 intraday resistance level. Let's have a look at the US yen. US yen pretty flat, hang around that 156.47 is the current price. Yesterday we saw US dollar sold off against the yen. There's the red candlestick. Gap higher to start today, but again, US dollar being sold off against the yen, sitting in the middle of the range for now. And if I zoom into the hourly, I think it's pretty flat, as you can see, sitting in the middle of the range for now. Buyers of US, if we do see US dollar strength against the yen, buyers will be looking up this 156.80 level to get back to the 157. If we're going to see selling US and buying yen, US dollar weakness, sellers will be looking down at the 156 area. And then the US dollar against the Canadian. Let's get that up. And there, a doji-like candle showing some indecision. Buyers and sellers have tested in both directions. I've got support 137.49 and I've got intraday resistance at 137.85. A very tight range for now. If I zoom in on the hourly, There you can see we're sitting in the middle of the range. Buyers of US, if we see US dollar strength against the Canadian, buyers will look up at this resistance at the 137.85 and look up at the 138 resistance area. If we're going to see selling US buying Canadian, Canadian strength, US dollar weakness, sellers would be looking down at the 137.49 support area. But for now, sitting pretty flat in the middle of the range. But we do have on all our the majors, we've got our resistance and support levels to work with. We saw in the index that the US dollar started strong, but looks to be giving up some of those gains, although fighting back again against the euro and the pound. We're seeing a similar pattern. Yen and US dollar yen, US dollar Canadian, a little bit flatter than the European currencies. They're sitting in the middle of their ranges. Good trading, and I'll see you at the end of today's session.